South Africa is recognized for its diverse landscapes, biodiversity, and multiculturalism. Stretching from border to border, the country consists of 8 metropolitan municipalities and 205 local municipalities. These municipalities cover vast and heterogeneous areas and may include metros, cities, towns, rural, and natural areas. This video describes some of the types of areas that can be found in South Africa and some of the challenges associated with them. Let's start by considering the challenges found in metropolitan regions. These are large cities with multiple centers, as they engulf cities, towns, and villages in their growth. Examples in South Africa include Johannesburg, eThekwini, and Cape Town. These cities face numerous challenges, often struggling to provide services at least as fast as the population grows. Some challenges are inadequate housing, providing infrastructure to a growing but often very poor population, facilitating access to land and safe housing in places close to work and social amenities, providing safe, reliable, and affordable transport in sprawling urban areas, preventing disasters such as fires, flooding, landslides, and disease, ensuring sound and inclusive governance that benefits all residents. What is the role of urban planning in metropolitan regions? Urban planning is essential to ensure that people can have access to basic services, land, housing, and jobs, and that the cities are safe and productive. It can provide strategic direction and integrate policies, plans, and projects over multiple municipal and other government jurisdictions, but can also provide proposals for upgrading or redeveloping specific areas. Besides being proactive in identifying land for development or redevelopment, there is also a need to control development to limit environmental pollution and harm to residents. The greater the population and density of development, the more critical the control over environmental and social impacts and preventing possible disasters. Secondly, let's look at cities. Compared to metropolitan areas, cities experience similar rates of population growth and numbers of households living in informal dwellings. However, in most metropolitan areas, there tends to be a continuous urban area with some rural areas, whereas in municipalities containing cities, there are often a number of settlements and a large portion of the land is rural. However, smaller cities may not have the economic and revenue base that larger cities enjoy, as residents have lower average household incomes. Thus, providing and maintaining infrastructure can be difficult for planners and engineers working in cities. It is also important for planners to stimulate business and industry in order to create employment. Many cities are overly reliant on a single economic sector, such as mining. Mining and manufacturing cities need special attention, as declining resources and changing technology can lead to job losses and exodus of skilled workers, leaving the least skilled and the poorest families behind. Now consider the challenges of towns and villages. Towns were generally established to serve or protect the local farming community. They are often the first stops for people migrating to cities, as the residents often have families and friends who can assist them to find a place to stay and a job. As agriculture has changed in South Africa, employing fewer workers and relying on bigger farms, the demand for such towns has declined. Consequently, smaller towns are increasingly finding it difficult to retain their bigger shops and services. With a dwindling economy and shrinking social facilities, small towns may struggle to attract and retain professionals such as doctors, engineers, and teachers, as well as artisans such as electricians and plumbers. Nonetheless, towns and villages do have opportunities for development that can create jobs for local residents. The challenge is to identify and develop those possibilities. A different dynamic is often at work in South African towns that are surrounded by tribal areas. Land is much cheaper in tribal areas as it is not serviced or surveyed, but allocated by the local chief and headman. Furthermore, there are no municipal taxes payable. Thus, land in rural towns that fall under tribal jurisdiction is often in high demand, as it offers access to the center of town, but without the costs usually associated with living in an urban area. And rural areas? Here, land quality, climate, and land ownership are important determinants of the character of rural areas. Farming options are dependent heavily on the availability of water and quality of soil. This means that in arid parts of the country, farms are large and limited to livestock. In wetter areas, farmers are able to grow crops and tend to have smaller farms. In areas under traditional leadership, few people have title to their land, but have tenure based on their relationships to the community. Homesteads with areas for crops are allocated to each household with communal grazing areas. Sacred sites are demarcated and respected by the community. While land use management legislation assumes demarcated and clearly identified sites, this is not always the case with tribal areas. Planners need to find innovative ways of supporting economic activities without creating negative social and environmental impacts. Lastly, let's discuss conservation areas and wilderness. Conservation areas can be large nature or game reserves or smaller areas within an urban area. These areas are usually set aside to protect endemic species or a natural environment. Open spaces are essential for the protection of ecological infrastructure, natural ecosystems that provide essential services to humans, such as clean air, water, and limiting disasters. These ecosystems are diverse and provide a range of functions. Connections between them are critical for biodiversity and the protection of natural habitats. As conservation, protection, and maintenance of our natural and green spaces is essential, planners ensure that not only sensitive or unique environments are protected, but that there are suitable green spaces in all settlements. Small connected spaces in high-density cities make a difference. In conclusion, planners working in municipalities must have the knowledge to understand the dynamics of urban areas and the skills to manage their problems, but simultaneously to deal with rural issues.